Lisa, what are your thoughts on this? Because I know the defense made a lot of the fact that Travis McMichael had been in the Coast Guard. He was familiar with investigations, the definition of probable cause, things like that. But in your view, does that really matter in this case?
No, it doesn't. And I actually think it hurts him because of the fact that this was unprovoked, because of the fact we know that this was not a crime in progress that either of them witnessed. Ahmaud Arbery was a suspect at that point, and that was simply it. He fit the description of somebody that they saw earlier who potentially had a weapon, who walked into a construction site. So they didn't meet the criteria regarding a citizen's arrest. And I think it hurt him because you have somebody who has that knowledge and knows the way use of force continuum works like the back of his hand. He was even teaching it at one point. And the fact that he was the aggressor, he was the one who brought the weapon just because an individual who is running didn't stop. The only thing that I say that I think has a chance in this case is the unwitting, I'm going to say, and that's going to be Roddy Bryant, because he didn't know anything leading up to anything except for the fact somebody was chasing somebody and he was trying to help and see what was going on. So, as a citizen and part of a community, that's an understandable type thing that he did.
hmm Lisa, as a former law enforcement officer, d- when you hear about people trying to make a so-called citizen's arrest, does that kind of just make your skin crawl as somebody who is probably thinking, just call the cops?
No, actually, the opposite in this case. I mean, I love when people
Oh,
stand up for themselves. They try to help other people. They've helped the police. They've held people down in cases where we're trying to chase and pursue somebody. They've tripped people. Citizens have been very helpful in that regard, and or taking care of themselves as they were involved in some type of a conflict. But this particular case is
mhm.
so unique because we have a former police officer and we have a Coast Guard person who was trained in police work and law enforcement. So now we have two individuals that both have this incredible training who I believe violated everything. They were not in uniform. They were not in a marked vehicle. They were not calling out saying, we're police, et cetera. Nothing in that manner. And they didn't have authority to do that because they were not. One's in the
hmm
Coast Guard and the other one is retired. They lost that capacity of being in service and legally being able to do that because of what our other guest just said. I'm sorry, I'm remissing your name. The fact that they were the provokers. He had not committed any crime whatsoever in their presence. He was not a fleeing felon.
I don't know how it would, I know how it might play where I live, but I don't know how that's going to play down in Glynn County, Georgia, Brunswick, Georgia. We know everybody down there in that county knows about this case. Lisa, I was really shocked to hear her say this and say that basically, like, the guy they told you about in opening statements is not the guy who ended up, being in this confrontation with my clients. I mean, she's basically just kind of slamming Ahmaud Arbery as his mother sits there in the courtroom. What were your thoughts as a former law enforcement officer listening to that?
Difficult to try and discredit. I mean, whether you're a prosecutor trying to discredit somebody, victim, defense side discrediting, but I think it pushed it way beyond because I mean, it's cringeworthy. Again, if the goal was to say somebody with long toenails and you can see them in flip flops and no socks, that they're not jogging. Okay, fine. But he has every right to be in any neighborhood he wants to be in without becoming an immediate suspect. Crossing over into a house under construction that does not have locks, unless there are signs allocated saying no trespassing, it is a simple misdemeanor. We don't have a burglary. We don't have any proof of anything being stolen. We do see him on video walking around very nonchalantly, not walking out with any property. So we don't have an offense. And it just doesn't come together, I don't think, at all for the McMichael father and son.